The town of Black Hollow was nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, shrouded in perpetual mist and shadow. The townsfolk whispered stories of the lake nearby, called Raven's Depth, but no one dared go near it after dark. It was said the water never rippled, no matter how strong the wind blew. Ethan Miller and his friends, Claire, Matt, and Rachel, were thrill seekers. At 17, they considered themselves invincible. The stories about Raven's Depth seemed perfect for their next adventure. "It's just a lake," Ethan said, standing outside the old bait shop. His flashlight beam cut through the fog, illuminating the peeling paint of the shop's boarded-up windows. "What if the stories are true?" Claire asked, her voice trembling. She gripped Matt's arm, glancing nervously toward the forest trail that led to the water. "They're not," Matt said, though he sounded less confident than Ethan. "It's just an old legend to keep kids from drowning. Let's go." Rachel rolled her eyes. "We've come this far. Let's at least see the lake." The trail to Raven's Depth was overgrown, and the air grew colder the closer they got. The forest seemed unnaturally quiet, with no chirping crickets or rustling leaves. When they emerged from the trees, the lake stretched before them, an obsidian mirror reflecting the cloudy sky. "Creepy," Claire muttered, shivering. She pulled her jacket tighter as the group approached the shore. Ethan picked up a rock and hurled it into the water. It sank without a sound or splash. "That's weird," Matt said, stepping back. "Let's get out of here." Before anyone could argue, a low, guttural moan echoed across the lake. The group froze. From the opposite shore, dark figures began to emerge. They moved with unnatural jerks, their limbs stiff but deliberate. "What the hell?" Rachel whispered. The figures stepped into the water, and instead of sinking, they glided across its surface. The moon broke through the clouds, illuminating their rotted faces and hollow, glowing eyes. "Run!" Ethan shouted. The group turned and sprinted back into the forest. Branches tore at their clothes, and the ground seemed to shift beneath their feet. The moaning grew louder, closer, as if the creatures were gliding through the trees as easily as they had the lake. They burst into a clearing and spotted an abandoned cabin. Ethan shoved the door open, and they piled inside, slamming it shut behind them. "What were those things?" Claire gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Zombies? Ghosts?" "I don't know," Matt said, peering out through a crack in the wood. The creatures had reached the clearing, their glowing eyes fixed on the cabin. "We're trapped," Rachel said, backing away from the windows. Ethan grabbed an old axe leaning against the wall. "We fight. We can't just sit here." "There's too many," Claire said. "We'll never make it." The first creature slammed against the door, the wood splintering under the impact. Ethan swung the axe as it broke through, cleaving its head in two. Black ichor splattered the floor, but more were pushing their way inside. Rachel grabbed a rusted crowbar, Matt a heavy chair leg. Claire screamed as one grabbed her arm, its decayed fingers digging into her flesh. Matt smashed its head, but not before it sank its teeth into her shoulder. "Claire!" Ethan shouted, pulling her back. Her skin was already turning pale, veins darkening beneath the surface. I'm sorry," she whispered, tears in her eyes. She grabbed Ethan's axe and turned toward the creatures. "Go now." "No, we can't leave you." Rachel cried, but Claire shoved her toward the back door. "Go!" she screamed, charging the zombies. Ethan, Rachel, and Matt fled into the forest, her screams echoing behind them. The moaning faded, but the forest seemed to close in tighter. They stumbled onto the road leading back to town, bloodied and exhausted. As dawn broke, they collapsed in front of the sheriff's office. Inside, Sheriff Harper listened to their story, his face grim. "You're lucky you made it out alive," he said. "What were those things?" Rachel asked. The sheriff sighed, leaning back in his chair. Back in the 60s, the government used Raven's depth for experiments. Chemical testing. They claimed it was safe, but the lake, it changed. Animals started disappearing, people too. We tried to warn outsiders, but they never listen. Ethan clenched his fists. Claire, she sacrificed herself. For us. "She's gone," Harper said. "But if she's lucky, she stayed dead. Most don't." A week later, Matt's mother found his bed empty, the window wide open. Ethan disappeared the next night, his shoes left by the front door. Rachel was the last. Her parents found her journal on her desk, open to the final page. "They're calling me. I can't resist anymore." No one ever saw them again. Black Hollow's mist grew thicker, and the townsfolk knew better than to ask questions. Raven's depth waited, silent and still, for its next visitors.